He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Okay, we are trying to get Jim Bates, HAARP Program, Air Force Research Laboratory, Space Vehicles Directorate on. Ed Kennedy, U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. Dr. Paul Kossey, HAARP Program Manager for the Air Force Research Laboratory, Space Vehicles Directorate. And we just got a call from the public relations spokesman for Kirtland Air Force Base, and we're talking to him. He says they're about to call in, so we hope they come on. You know, we've had a few guests on talking about what they believe HAARP does, what they admit it does, and I thought, you know, why not? And Trey, my producer, thought, why not get the people from HAARP on? We had General Parton on years ago who headed up the Air Force's stuff on, and he wouldn't talk about it. I mean, I had him on about some other issues with the military, and he was actually talking about his Sino-Soviet split paper he wrote that was then adopted into policy and then thrown out of policy back in the 60s. He became the head of Air Force weapons development, and just while we had him on, we took a call, and the caller said, "You directed HAARP," and he said, "Well, I'm not going to get into it. It's classified." So we'll see if these guys will come on and, I mean, tell us what HAARP is, at least from their perspective, or what they can tell us. I mean, let me tell you, they were very helpful. Trey called them last week and just said, "I want somebody on from HAARP," and they called back and said, "Okay, Jim Bates, HAARP Program, Air Force Research Laboratory, Space Vehicles Directorate." What is HAARP doing with space vehicles? I mean, is this for scanning for satellites or missiles? That's what I was always told, is that it was an over-the-horizon radar system that went into space as well, but Parton wouldn't talk about that, but he did say it had something to do with that. Ed Kennedy, U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. We've had old Ben Livingston on, who was there for a while, the head of it with weather weapons. That was interesting. That was declassified. I mean, we just try to bring you, these are really interesting things. And we like to go directly to the source of where these programs are being carried out. And we did announce we were having these guests on, and we're a controversial show. And talking to the public relations guy, he was saying, "What do you want them on about?" And I said, "Look, I'm having them on about whatever they want to say." And I am here in the lurch. John, have we gotten any of these guys on? They have not called in. And do we still have the fellow who's Mike is listening in? Go ask him what the ETA here is, because I don't like doing this. And we have to reschedule them. That's fine. I don't want to make a big issue out of this. We just wanted to have them on. Kind of like it was declassified, that the whole the weather weapons program's up till 75. And before it was in any news article, I said, "Wow, my listeners have sent me these declassified documents," and they were online, Library of Congress. I said, "I better call Ben Livingston," and he was up in the Panhandle of Texas running a weather control company, and we flew him to Austin and had him on, and he had talked about how they controlled hurricanes, steered them, directed them, and then Fox News, AP, and others picked up on that, Coast to Coast AM. And we do have some of the stuff that's been declassified about HAARP here, and I thought, why not go directly to the source? Instead of have people claim HAARP does this or HAARP does that, I don't know what it does, because it's classified. So we just wanted to get the word from them. Oh, fantastic. Dr. Paul Kossey, HAARP Program Manager for the Air Force Research Laboratory, Space Vehicles Directorate. Doctor, did I get that title correct?
That's correct.
Wow, this is just amazing to have you on with us. What is HAARP? I mean, there's so many rumors flying around, so many different things that have been said. One time I had an Air Force retired general on about a totally different issue, and a caller called in and said, "You were the director of HAARP for the Air Force," and he wouldn't talk about it. So I appreciate you guys coming on. What is HAARP?
Well, I always have to smile here, because we certainly do like to talk about what HAARP is, because there's certainly a lot of what it isn't. It's been a favorite program in the growth of the Internet. We started about the time the Internet did, and somehow it got picked up and became a kind of a favorite blog for a lot of people. Unfortunately, what what HAARP is and versus what it isn't are so different that it's hard to even get into that. So in terms of what it is, it's a research facility to conduct research in ionosphere and radio science, much like the type that started way back in the days of Marconi in the early 1900s, whenever they discovered that radio waves somehow got across the ocean, which was a great surprise. And that led to a whole growth of science in understanding the ionosphere, radio waves, and the physics and the chemistry of all those things.
That even led to sonar.
And, well, that's right. That's a acoustic type wave. It goes underwater. But in any event, in terms of the radio science and ionospheric work, that's gone on for tens of years, and over time it's led to, obviously, the development of many systems that we're very familiar with and quite happy with, including our modern communication systems and satellite comm and long-distance comm and even the global positioning radio system, which grew out of this type of research. So what HAARP is really kind of modern-day version and capabilities to extend and do those kind of studies, we hope, well into the next century. So it's radio science, it's ionosphere physics and chemistry, and even space science, because radio waves indeed go out into space.
Yeah, what is this part about Space Vehicles Directorate?
Well, those are some of the arcane names that get put on organizations. But in terms of the Air Force Research Laboratory, there are a number of directorates that focus in certain technology areas like aerospace, sensors, and space vehicles does connote in many senses the...
Why? Because HAARP might be used to detect satellites or ICBMs or...
No. Now let me just say what the organization is, and you'll see how we're in there. The space vehicle has to do with a lot of the work in the directorate is involved with planning new satellite systems or demonstrations. So remember, it's a research lab. Most of the things... Yeah,
so there's lots of different experiments and programs that are going on, and so the overall...
related to space, and in terms of the directorate that my group is involved with, we are part of that directorate in terms of the name.
Well, sir, maybe the stories get started because there are so many different agencies and directorates and programs inside there that are compartmentalized. I mean, I have no doubt. I hear all sorts of wild stuff. That's why we've got you on. And so basically, but there are parts of it that are classified, obviously.
Well, let me put it this way. The HAARP program, we're very, very well known and known in the scientific community because most of the work we do is very basic research, I must say, and the description of the facility and looking at it and seeing it, there's nothing classified about it. It's in many ways it's impressive because of its beautiful location, and it is does consist of...
That's a good question. What is it? What's on there? I mean, all these antennas, what do they do?
Okay, those antennas are kind of, if you like, a kind of a special version of Radio Moscow or the Voice of America or the BBC. They're high-frequency it's a high-frequency transmitting system, shortwave transmitting system, basically. However, it's a transmitting system to do research, and the energy from those transmitters and the antennas are directed upward. We're interested in studying how radio waves interact up in the ionosphere. We're talking about up over 50, 60, up to hundreds of miles and even thousands of miles into space. That's what the basic studies are involved with, whereas Voice of America, more conventional HF system for communications or broadcasting music, the energy is directed low along the ground because you wanted to go far distance across the ocean and so forth.
Sure, but let's say Voice of America is 1 million watts. How many watts are you guys putting out?
That's a good example. The Voice of America is a radiated power of 1 million watts. The completed HAARP facility, which was finished last year about this time, is a little more than 3.5 million watts.
3.5 million watts. What about people that say that it's for weather control or weather modification?
Well, it has, unfortunately, it's totally off base. It has no interactions or affects anything with weather systems. Remember, the weather systems are relatively close to Earth, the jet stream and things like that are not all that high up there. We're talking about the HAARP energy going up and interacting out in the areas hundreds of miles into space.
This is even going into the Van Allen radiation belt, isn't it?
Well, the radio waves is the high enough frequencies that can get through the ionosphere, go out into deep space. That's true.
Yeah. But, I mean, the Russians do advertise that they have these radio arrays that they claim clear the skies. That's like BBC News, Associated Press. The Communist Chinese claim that they have smaller arrays that can manipulate the weather. I mean, can't you see that that's why people then think that what you're doing is similar to that?
Well, I don't know if I can see or even understand that. It's just that it has nothing to do with, HAARP has nothing to do with such things. And, in fact, the physical basis for talking about that or interactions of radio waves to do things like that is unknown to me, I must say. That is to say, I don't know what the technical or physical base for people thinking that one could do that, even where that comes from.
You think it's just more of the Russians making stuff up then?
I can't speak for the Russians. I'll talk to you about HAARP, but I have no idea what they're saying or who's saying it. That's the other thing.
Fantastic, Doctor. You've got
blog on the Russians. I have no idea.
You've got quite a bio. I apologize for not properly introducing you. Stay right there, so we're going to be right back after this quick break and see if some of your colleagues are going to be able to join us. We'll be right back after this quick break. During the break, I typed into Google, Russians declare skies for parade. I had remembered that headline from a few years ago. And Associated Press headline, nuclear missiles paraded across Red Square. And then it says, and then it goes into how they manipulated the weather with these different radio waves to clear the skies for the parade. Here is another one about Russia remembers World War II with lavish victory parade, and it says that they use these antenna arrays to clear the sky. So I think that's what gets tied in to HAARP because it looks similar. And I was talking to the director, Dr. Paul Kossey, HAARP program manager for the Air Force Research Laboratory Space Vehicles Directorate, during the break, and he was saying that he had heard about some of those systems for knocking out fogs. So I mean, you are saying you have, Doctor, read about radio-type systems that do manipulate some of the weather.
Say that because I'm not familiar with that. I know there have been attempts, for example, to disperse fog. Now, often that involves with a lot of, I assume, fans and things like that. Now, the use of radio waves to do it is unbeknownst to me, but I don't have any competence in that area, and I'm not familiar with it, and I'm not aware of it.
Well, what findings is one of the top experts on HAARP in the world? I mean, what are some of the neat things that are declassified that you can talk about that you've been able to do with HAARP, or what data have you learned? I mean, we just want to know.
Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, HAARP is a radio science, ionosphere radio science program to do the kind of research that is not new in a certain way. It's been going on since the days of Marconi to understand how radio waves interact with the ionosphere in space, what those mediums do to it under various conditions, natural conditions, when there's solar disturbances. Because we know, for example, when there are solar disturbances, certain radio waves can get affected, even blacked out, and you have to go to other systems at different radio frequencies. And all this knowledge is gleaned over the years through radio science and ionospheric science and research. And HAARP is basically just a modern version to continue that research, hopefully, with more sensitive instruments, better diagnostic instruments, and more flexibility to understand how radio waves interact in the ionosphere and space. and whether we can exploit those to improve communications, navigation, whatever, radar systems. So it's nothing particularly new in terms of the ideas and concepts. It's bringing more modern tools, better capabilities with the new computer-controlled systems,